Giacomo, the author of Recurve, and in this video I'm going to talk about variants, which are a core feature of Recurve and part of Recurve's unique flexibility and value prop as it pertains to how it stands out versus other Discord progression and leveling bots in the space. I've got a basic demo server right here that we'll be using in this video and probably in future videos covering different topics. And then I have Recurve open here in this other tab. So variants are essentially custom activity types and XP sources. So rather than just offering message XP and voice XP like a lot of other progression bots do, Recurve allows you to define your own custom XP sources based on how your community works, what your community does, how they engage, etc. So for example, a milsim community, rather than just giving people progression based on their engagement in a Discord server, which they likely wouldn't, a lot of milsim communities keep logs of missions, trainings, operations, deployments, things like that. With Recurve, you can define those as custom activity types, get custom slash commands loaded in, and be able to record those operations or missions or what have you as activities that automatically reward XP according to how you set them up. And that gives them an automated way and a more structured way to give their members progression. For casual communities, it might be events or movie nights or meetings. For educational communities, it could be accountability checks or classes or tutoring sessions or all sorts of things. So the beautiful part with variants is that it is up to the user to define them as they wish. They're extremely flexible, can apply to all sorts of different communities, and can be super duper complex and advanced or super duper simple and literally just the click of a button to get some XP or items or currency or whatever. So we're going to set up a generic event variant to start. We might throw in a really simple button-driven one later just to kind of show off how that can work. But let's go ahead and get started. So again, we're on this variants tab here. I'm going to hit the plus button to get it started, and I'm just going to call it event. That's going to be how the command shows up and how the variant shows up across the app. This first page is all the different types of rewards that can be distributed from an activity being logged. So at the base, it might just reward 100 XP, maybe 10 currency, whatever. You set these according to how you want to reward activity. Participant bonuses are for every participant that's in the activity gives more XP. Same thing with currency. You can set an activity cost, as in for certain activity types, maybe you want members to have to pay with currency that they've earned to be able to log another activity. We're going to leave these 0 for now just to keep this really simple. You can set random bonuses. Lots of uses for this. These can go negative, so if you kind of want to make your own sort of gambling game, you can essentially set it up that way. But these give you the option to have Recurve just calculate some random XP or currency amount and tag it on. You can also reward roles. We don't have any roles in this server, of course, but these can be temporary roles or permanent roles that get distributed when people log this activity. You can distribute item rewards as well. Again, we don't have items here. We'll come back to this, but these can be drop-like percentages or guarantees. And then you can reward cross-variant XP. So if you have multiple variants and you want to reward multiple XP types from one variant, you can set that up as well here. So that's all your different reward types. Obviously, there's tons of things you can do with this. Lots of parameters, lots of flexibility, lots of things to play with. This next page is going to be some more advanced settings, behavior like whether or not the caller of the command gets included as a participant by default. This means the person who's actually typing in /log event gets automatically awarded the XP, currency, items, what have you, that are associated with the variant. You can set a cooldown so that certain activities can only be logged so often. This can go up to the days. You got seconds, minutes, hours, days here that you can use for the time scale. You can also require approval before rewards get distributed. So if this is on, when a log gets posted, it'll have approve and deny buttons on it that admins can use to either, of course, approve or deny the activity. If approved, rewards get distributed. If denied, then nothing happens. But those things don't get counted until after an activity has been approved, if this is enabled. Appearance, you can have your logs show up as just plain text, or you can have them show up as an embed or a card with that richer styling. If you do have it pop up as an embed, you can set the embed color. You get a spectrum picker here with, you can paste in hex values or pick from these defaults. You can also set whether or not you want role mentions that are part of the variant message template, if you want those to ping people with that role or not. By default, it does not do that, but there are a handful of use cases where this can be useful. You can also set up flavor texts. So these are basically strings that you can throw into your template that it'll pick randomly. This can be useful for like work commands or things like that, where people, click a work button or log work and it says, user A went to the mines and mined for gold or what have you. And then you can have role requirements. This is basically, you can only log this activity if you have these certain roles. So that's how you can restrict different activities. Again, even more flexibility in here, tons of stuff that you can do and customize. This last page is your system fields. So participants are used to count who gets the rewards from an activity, who gets counted, who gets XP, etc. Host can be used as a separate requirement metric for leveling. So if you want to particularly reward or require members to host and take the lead on events, instead of just participate in them rather, in order to level up, you can use this host field, or you can disable it and it won't show up. There's also a duration field where you can record how long a given activity took. This is useful particularly for inactivity tracking and keeping a gauge on how much members are doing, depending on your use case. And then the wait field gives you the opportunity to create multipliers that will multiply the total XP value of a given XP or currency value of a given activity. So I'm just going to switch all of these on to start just to give the example. All of them can be renamed and marked as required or not required. So if you have a different name for host, if you want to call it lead, or if you want to change participants to team, or whatever, you can customize that so it doesn't show up as those strict field names. So when we create our variant, we get this page on the variants page that shows us kind of an overview of what our rewards look like. Any advanced behaviors that we have enabled will show up in this box. And then you've got two sections down here. You've got your command setup and you've got your message template. So as I said before, when you create a variant, it generates a custom /command in your Discord server that's used to log that activity type. As you can see, we've got our system fields that we set up popping up here, and there's this field button where we can actually create custom fields. So let's say, in this case, we want to record notes about the event. There are a handful of different field types. For notes, we're going to use the text field, but you have number, decimal, yes and no, drop down where you can select or define options that people can select from. Multipliers, which multiply the base XP value of the field itself. File uploads, this can be images or actual files. And then mentions, which are used for creating certain board types later on. There's kind of some advanced metric stuff that you can do with this field. But there's all these field types that you can set up. You can mark it as required or not. It could be optional. You can also give it a XP value or currency value if it gets filled out. So if someone leaves it empty, maybe you want to give them no XP for that, but if they do fill it out, they get a bonus amount for doing so. So when you create custom fields, they get added to your / command here. You can create a whole bunch of these, tag them on. There are tons of different uses for different fields. Custom fields can be used, they're not just used to, change the way a log appears. You can create reports based on field values. You can put field stats inside people's profile outputs. We'll talk about kind of what the profile command looks like in another video in depth, but the fields that you track can do a lot within the app and can give you a lot of flexibility on how you want your members to interact with your activities and with your server and so on and so forth. So we've got our basic command set up here. We can go ahead and hit this publish button, and that'll set it up to get loaded in to Discord. If it doesn't show up immediately, you can click this reload bot button, and that'll do it for you. Or you can use the /reload command in Discord, and that will do the same thing. It'll reload your commands. We should see log event show up here. So yeah, we've got this custom / command now. We can throw people in here. Maybe Recurve's the host, 30 minutes worth, and then we've got our notes field here as well, where we can fill in some information. In this case, we haven't set up, we put currency rewards on the variant, but we don't have any currency reserves. We'll talk about that more in depth in another video, the economy system, but I'm just going to go ahead and set these back to 0 to prevent that bug, or not bug, but that warning from popping up. And we should be able to go back here and try logging it again, and it'll pop up. So this is the default sort of fallback message that you'll see when you haven't created your message template. It'll give you some basic information to work with, like how much XP and what those system fields had. But you're going to want to customize how your logs appear, which is where this section comes in. So if you hit edit template here, it pulls up this template editor. This is a block-based template editor, so there's still some tricky stuff that kind of appears like coding to get variables and different data types injected into the message template. But there's also this generate button that'll throw together some basic blocks for you that give you kind of a starting point to work with. So as you can see, we've got this heading. We can change what size we want there, change the text. There's this text block that it threw in with some of our system fields. As you can see, there are these template tags that get used to inject different things into the templates. We've got our custom field showing up here, and a list of participants, a list block, dividers, some stuff at the bottom. You can also see that it supports Markdown, so you'll notice we've got like bold values here and different things going on like that. We get a little bit of a preview on this side as well, so we can get at least an idea of how that message is going to look in Discord. It's best to always test it live and throw stuff in Discord to see how it really ends up looking, because we can only get so much out of this. But this gives us a start. So I'm just going to make a little edit to this. I'm going to throw in a block quote here instead of using just the notes thing. And then maybe I'll say hosted by, throw some bold on the host, and then we've already got our XP earned down here, so I'll just say XP, and we know that that's there, and I can drop that out. And we'll just say for duration, and that'll say how long it took. You'll see there's also this variable search thing that can help you inject variable blocks or variable tags for you, which can be useful if you're not comfortable typing all these brackets and things like that. But let's just go ahead and save this. We've got our new event template or event message template, and we'll go ahead and call this command again to see it in action. So there you go. We've got our new stuff in here. It's formatted all pretty. Again, there's a ton of stuff you can do with this. You can use custom emojis. You can put images inside of them. There's all sorts of really neat things that you can do with the message template customization. We might make another video later on about all of the different things you can do with this because it is pretty complex, but that generate button helps you get started easily for sure. So we've got this event variant. This is a custom XP source that we can now reference when we're creating levels. I won't go through a full level setup per se, but I can show you how it ends up showing when you create a level. There are, when you know, if you pick a role, or again, let's just create level 1 here instead of waffling. We can again come back to a lot of these requirements later and stuff, but on this page all your variants will show up. If you're in standard or classic progression mode, you can set specific requirements per variant that you have. So if we want to require 1,000 event XP and you have to host 10 events before you get to level up, that's how you can configure that. Levels have different rewards. Again, we talk about that in a separate video, but that's kind of how you can set up. That's how variants affect your levels, and the more variants you have, the more complex your requirements can become, so on and so forth. I'm going to jump over to some of these other servers that we have just to give you an idea of what's possible with these variants. So SOR is a Halo clan. They're the longest time user of Recurve, and they've got an event variant like ours with some other cool stuff going on. They're tracking title, taking notes. They've got another team field, so you can have participants versus team 2, winner. You can attach clips or screenshots. They've got a bunch of weights for multiplying the XP values depending on what kind of event it is, and then they've got their message template. They've got recruitments as well, so they're tracking things for when they run recruitments and bring new people into the group. And in their levels, you can see those requirements. So as you go up, the number of recruitments and events required increases, and you have to start hosting and things like that. So that's a pretty, straightforward example of how those can be used. The SESF Helldivers community is another long-term user. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this little guy because we're on a small screen and it's getting cut off there. But they've got a handful of really cool variants set up for logging things in their server. Their templates are actually so advanced and complex that they actually kind of start to break down in the preview. But I can show you in here what those end up looking like. See, they've got custom emojis inside. They're really taking advantage of Discord's markdown. They've got images in there, and they're doing approval. So you can see these little approved by tags at the bottom as people have been submitting their logs and getting those approved. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that I wanted to set up one of these simple button-driven variants for you, and I'll show you an example of what that can look like in this personal server that I have. We have a handful of these variants, and you'll notice that a bunch of these don't have any fields. So if you set up a fieldless variant, you can attach it to a button modal logger, and people can log them by just pressing these buttons. So I'm going to jump over here into this server, and you'll see people can click these buttons and it'll log things in this channel, and they'll get XP or items. You can, chop wood. It's sort of an RPG setting that we have set up here, but that's another way that you can use variants without having to use slash commands or include a bunch of information or details. You can set up these fieldless ones, wire them up to buttons, and click them that way to distribute rewards and such. As you can see in here, we have different random XP ranges, things like that. When you go mining, there are custom item reward drops that we have set up. So if we jump over into here, you'll see these item rewards, different ores and things that you can craft with different % chances of dropping, etc. So again, variants are extremely flexible. You can do a lot with them. I'll jump back over to our demo and we'll just pop one of these out real quick. We'll just make a work command we'll say it gives you a 100 XP per activity, and we'll give it a 5-minute cooldown, just arbitrarily. And when we go to make this, I'm just going to unselect this stuff so that there are no fields on it. I can actually leave it unpublished so it doesn't show up as a slash command, but then I come over here into this button and moda logging section and create a config here. I'll say this will show up in buttons. The log messages will get sent in buttons, and we'll just select the work one. You can customize how these loggers show up in Discord. We're just going to go with these defaults for the sake of time. But when we set this up and test permissions to make sure that it's ready to go, we can hit setup, and this will pop up in our Discord server over here with a button that we can click, and that'll shoot up a log. Of course, you need to set how you want that to approve, or how you want it to appear first with the message template and whatnot. But that's another, just to demonstrate the range of variants. You can do quite a lot with these. In future videos, we'll dig again more into the message templating, into economy system and the currency and item rewards that you can get, crafting, resale, all these different features that Recurve has to engage your members in a much more powerful and flexible way than is possible with any other bot on the Discord marketplace. Thanks for watching.